I want to tell you today about how I almost missed my miracle. Years ago, God had visited me powerfully in my living room as I was folding laundry. He called me to specifically tell people about Him on television. The next day, I called the local cable station because I had no experience or no education in this, and I asked them if I could have my own show on their channel, to which I could hear a deafening silence on the other end of the phone. The lady told me to come to a volunteer information meeting on the following Sunday. And I did that. The instructor there said that there would be no positions available for several months. So the next day, I put out a fleece before God. Have you ever done that? And I asked Him to show me a sign that this was really His will. I asked a bold request that that station would actually call me that day. Well, it was about 10 a.m. when I made this first appeal. That afternoon, by 2 p.m., I had not received a call yet. So I spoke to the Lord again, and I said, if this is you, God, please let the station call me today with an opportunity, even though they said it would be several months. At 2:30 p.m., the phone rang, and it was a very flustered producer from the station saying that he needed a volunteer by the next morning because someone else they had suddenly quit without notice, just walked away. Wow. Well, I told him I'd be there on time and ready. But here's the thing. As soon as I hung up the phone, I started having horrible doubts, and I mean terrifying. I was a stay-at-home mom with young children. I would have to drive for 45 minutes in rush hour traffic the next morning just to get to this position. I didn't have a babysitter. What was I thinking? I put my hand on the phone to call him back and to cancel this. I was racked with fear. In that moment, I almost gave up my miracle because of doubt and unbelief. Even though God had answered my fleece in a profound way, I stood there stunned. For a few minutes, I just thought about it, debating which way to go, faith or fear. I never called that producer back to cancel. Instead, I walked into my calling, even though I was afraid. And that's why I'm here today, because I chose obedience. And I wonder, what is God asking you to do that requires obedience in the face of fear? You know, there's a true story in the Bible about a man named Naaman. He had leprosy. He went to see a healing prophet. He wanted the prophet Elisha to come out and wave his hands over the leprosy and make it go away. And instead, Elisha didn't even leave his house to greet Naaman. He sent his servant to tell Naaman to dip in the Jordan River 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored to you, he said. Well, Naaman was furious. He wasn't really afraid. He was just mad. There's all kinds of reasons that keep us from our obedience. What kind of ridiculous request was that, Naaman thought? Why would Elisha not come out and just greet me properly and heal this leprosy? Naaman thought of cleaner rivers that would be better to dip in. He left in a rage, even though the healing was promised to be done by the man of God. The servant, seeing that Naaman was about to lose everything in his anger, implored him. He said, if he had asked you to do a more difficult thing, would you have done that? Naaman reluctantly agreed, and he headed for that Jordan River, and his skin was returned like that of a child, it says. He dipped in the River Jordan 7 times in obedience, and his victory came. I wonder if we almost miss our greatest miracle because we just can't do the simple thing that God is asking of us. We let fear or anger or discontent or, some sort of ego decision stop us from walking into the victory that God has. We sometimes have our own idea of how the answer should come. What is your Jordan River? Will you trust God and just do it? Walk in obedience and see your victory.